Why is Minecraft so nostalgic?
Hello, welcome to my Minecraft Alpha tutorial. How to survive the first night.
This short tutorial is going to show you how to make a diamond pickaxe from scratch.
And today, I'm going to be showing you how to make a mob spawner.
Today, I am going to show you how to make your very own dirt house.
Bro, I'm already gonna start crying, bro. Oh my lord, man.
This cave.
Bro, gotta show the pictures also, dude. Oh lord.
This music, this artwork, this biome, perhaps even this house, takes each and every one of us back to a certain chapter in our past life. A period specifically unique to only our own memory. That is
Dude,
now
the OG lava, bro. In my opinion, the OG textures are so much nicer than the new textures. Like, of course, the new textures, of course, look better. But in my opinion, the old ones, in my heart, are better.
Simply a representation of a chapter to which we will never return. It's bizarre, isn't it? We seem to place a higher value on what happened in our past, as if the game we were playing in 2010 was significantly better than that same game in 2020, despite the fact that on paper, the game has improved significantly since. We try to justify and pretend that the early 2010s was better than 2020 by stating that we preferred the old texture packs, or we preferred when there were less mobs in the game, or possibly even everyone's favorite excuse of the game was more simplistic back then. However, the reality of why many of us feel as though Minecraft was so much better in the early 2010s was nothing besides that dirty little liar by the name of nostalgia, insisting
Not even nostalgia. It's not even that. It's just more that it was new. It's like the first time you're playing Minecraft and you beat the Ender Dragon. There's nothing that can get that feeling back again, right? There is no amount of updates that can get that same exact feeling. You can add 1,000 new updates and it would never, ever catch that feeling of you winning that first boss that you beat in any single game. Elden Ring, Minecraft, Fortnite. The update can be 100 times better, but it would still never feel the same. And that's the problem with all these video games, is that these companies are trying to release these huge updates and they're very well done, but it's just never ever gonna fill that void.
that things were way better than they seemed at the time. But the most important question might be, why do we feel so much nostalgia for Minecraft? And why is it that there are elements of the early 2010s to which we just unconsciously ignore as if they were nothing but a simple ant walking on the pavement, while there are other aspects of the early 2010s such as Minecraft where we have an almost deeply emotional reaction when reminiscing?
Because I feel like it was just so enjoyable. Because you're in an open sand world, right? There's no storyline, there's no nothing, right? And it's just you and your imagination. And I don't feel like there's a lot of video games that have that sort of, connection with the player.
On the topic. Well, to pour the slab, to set the table, to establish a foundation for what is to be covered in this video, we first have to ask, what is nostalgia? Well, these days in popular culture, nostalgia references that bittersweet feeling you get when thinking about the good old days, or earlier parts of your life. However, this definition wasn't always concrete. When the word was first derived, it was actually a medical condition. Nostalgia, that feeling of wanting to be back in the past, a medical condition? Well, let me explain. The word was coined as a description for soldiers in the 1600s who had homesickness to such a level that they would receive stomach pains, high fever, fainting, and sometimes even death, all from this longing and desire to leave wartime and be back at home with their family. So in the beginning, nostalgia was far from a positive, an almost debilitating mental homesickness disease that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. However, as wars were fought and won, as nations rose and fell, as the natural death and rebirth of nature evolved the biological experiment known as man, the definition of nostalgia began to change. Rather than the original definition of wanting to be back home while at war, nostalgia seemed to bizarrely take on the definition of wanting to be back in the past. Only 90s kids will remember these advertisements. 2000s kids, my childhood. 2010s nostalgia.
Best nostalgia is probably 2015. We had Minecraft, Pixel Gun 3D, Plants vs. Zombies. I can go on for days and days and days of just the best nostalgia. But I feel like the 2010 and 2015, that's the sweet spot.
that will make you cry. Products, services, videos, all exploiting that natural desire to be your younger self once again. And if you look very closely at the thumbnail on this video, it's obvious that one of the prime suspects in 2010 nostalgia is Minecraft. But why?
Because it was so enjoyable, dude. There is nothing like getting your first piece of wood, building your first pickaxe, and then playing with your buddies at your friend's house, and then you staying up the whole entire night grinding to even try to kill the Ender Dragon. When I was a child, I didn't even know the Ender Dragon even existed in Minecraft. I was just playing Minecraft for the fun of it. When I was a child, it felt so special because you're in this world and you don't know what the frick is inside of it. You don't know that there's monsters. You don't know anything. I feel like that's what makes it so fun when you play it for the first time, because you don't know what's gonna be there, what's gonna happen, and it makes it so much more enjoyable.
Well, to begin exploring, we might first ask, what circumstances do we normally feel nostalgic for? Well, as a baseline, I think it's safe to say that we don't normally feel nostalgic for events that we remember to be unpleasant. A hospital trip in your childhood, hurting yourself after falling off a bike, accidentally walking into the girls' toilets during your formidable school years. These don't seem to be events that we wish to reminisce on. No, it seems to be the opposite of this. We feel nostalgic for events that were overwhelmingly pleasant. Events that in retrospect appeared to be when our monkey mind wasn't chattering. Events where we didn't have a care in the world. What is this feeling if not how we felt while playing Minecraft? The game seems to be almost built around the elements that are retrospectively so nostalgic. Peacefulness, simplicity, and perhaps a lack of competition. Minecraft has been built in a way where you never really have to come face to face with stressful moments or harsh levels of competition.
Actually, I don't think that's true. I think in Minecraft there are some stressful areas. Like if you're in the Nether, it's pretty stressful. If you're playing the final boss, the Ender Dragon, of course it's going to be stressful. If you're in your first ever night of you trying to fight zombies, it's going to be pretty stressful in my opinion.
Now obviously this isn't entirely true. Your first trip to the Nether, digging straight down with no knowledge of what might be beneath, or those few seconds after falling in lava that could be more stressful than someone typing www.p in your personal computer's address bar. However, for the most part, we seem to have a bias towards remembering the non-stressful events. Trawling through a cave on peaceful mode looking for
there is no other type of feeling than getting your first ever diamond and getting diamond armor. I remember when I was a kid, the best thing I got was iron armor, and I saw diamonds for the first ever time, and I screamed on the top of my freaking lungs, dude. And I could probably imagine everybody watching this video has the same exact reaction when they were a child.
Diamonds, trying to recreate that house that you saw your favorite YouTuber build, linking up with your school friends online after creating your first server. The low stress, low competition, simplistic moments seem to be the ones that we remember most vividly. And it seems as though this is kind of how the developers designed the game to some extent, especially when it comes to the graphic design and textures of the game. The game is a poster child for simplicity all the way down to the way the blocks were created. The low graphics and block-like textures give off the vibe of retro simplicity, and that retro simplicity is a prime suspect for the nostalgia that the game produces. It's like a modern day Frogger or Pac-Man for the 2010s, two games that these days are almost solely remembered and played for the nostalgia factor. The game was and is literally notorious for how bad the graphics were. I'm sure many of you guys remember in the early 2010s how Minecraft would always spawn an argument along the lines of, just because a game has bad graphics doesn't mean it's a bad game. However, without us realizing over time, these bad and simplistic graphics were just another element that added to the nostalgia significantly. But it wasn't only the simplicity in graphics that made the game nostalgic. Saying that bad graphics equals nostalgia is a pretty weak argument.
No, I actually don't think that's true. I think what made it nostalgic was that the amount of fun you had. You know, getting your first diamonds, getting your first achievement, getting to the Nether, beating the Ender Dragon, playing with your buddies that you never are going to be talking again. I probably have like about 10 to 15 friends that I have not talked to in about like 7 to 8 years, but I was playing Minecraft with them every single day. And if I go back in those Minecraft worlds, I will probably be crying of just how nostalgic it is. So what I'm saying is it's not the bad graphics or the video game that makes it nostalgic. I personally think it's the feeling, not really the video game. I think it's that you were so happy at that time that you miss it so much today.
No, as if Minecraft's nostalgia is comparable to a work of art created by Da Vinci himself, there are multiple layers to analyze. Emotion, the next key player in Minecraft's nostalgia.
You know, it's not just numbers, they describe the emotion and how hooked they are, and I was playing all night again, I can't go to work, I gotta call in sick.
The gameplay style, focusing on the emotion and creativity rather than the competition. Genius, because there's not many games that focus on emotion rather than competition. Every game these days, Fortnite, Call of Duty, League of Legends, all focus on becoming better and beating other players within the game. And while each of these games certainly has their own elements of nostalgia,
Yeah, but in my opinion, what makes Minecraft so special is that it's enjoyable. Like, the thing about Call of Duty is you want to win, right? You want to win in Valorant, you want to win in League of Legends, you want to win in Call of Duty. But in Minecraft, you enjoy the ride. You enjoy building your first house. You enjoy getting your ores. You enjoy laughing with your friends. But with Call of Duty, it's more serious. It's more challenging, right? And it's just different type of video games for different type of people, in my opinion.
they don't seem to have that compelling emotional nostalgia that you get when you think about the early days of Minecraft. Increased emotion alongside decreased competition seems to be a recipe for a nostalgic memory of the game in question. But the real question might be, where does this emotion come from? What are the elements of emotion within Minecraft? Sure,
Enjoyment, beating your first boss, finding your first diamonds.
it's easy to say that Minecraft becomes nostalgic owing to the emotion it produces, but that's very broad. Can we think a little bit more specifically? Let's think about smell, one of the senses that can produce an overwhelming sense of nostalgia should you get a whiff of a scent that reminds you of your younger years. An old deodorant that you used when you were younger, those plastic Christmas tree leaves teleporting you back to your younger self, staying up for the formalities of Christmas morning, the smell of sunscreen, even in the coldest of winters, preparing our mind as someone ready to jump in the deep end of a swimming pool.
Like, I don't think smell has that much to do with Minecraft. I think it's more visuals, because there was so many updates that if you look back at a 2010 screenshot of Minecraft, it's gonna look completely different. It's the same video game, but there's just so many new updates. The game hasn't changed, it's just the visuals has changed. So if you look back, you're gonna get that nostalgic feeling, in my opinion.
Produce varying levels of nostalgia. And while there were certainly some nasty smells coming out of my 14-year-old room after a 6-hour gaming sesh back in 2012, Minecraft itself obviously doesn't have all that much of a smell. It's a video game. And a video game can't trigger your sense of smell, but what it can do is trigger your hearing with sounds, and specifically music.
I didn't even think about that. The Minecraft music is something I could actually cry to, man.
The Minecraft soundtrack is one of, if not the most memorable game soundtracks of all time. Why? Well, it provides everything that we discussed in the previous.
It's because when you're playing Minecraft and you hear the beautiful sound of C4, what's his name? I don't know his exact name, but when you're building your first house and you're by yourself and you're just building it and you hear bum dun bun done. It's the most satisfying thing, and it's just so relaxing and calm. And another fun thing is, like, when you're flying in creative mode with your buddies and then that music starts playing in the background, it's just such a different feeling. I feel like the music is another huge thing for nostalgic feeling.
Paragraph about the elements that seem to trigger nostalgia. Peace of mind, that flow state, simplicity, and specifically an overwhelming provision of emotion. Minecraft's soundtrack was created by Daniel Rosenfeld, or C418, and took a very
C418.
different approach comparative to many other games at the time. Considering Minecraft is an open world adventure game, you might expect some kind of adventurous music similar to maybe Borderlands or Skyrim. However, due to the game's weak Java engine back in 2011, C418 had to make the music as simple as possible, producing the basic soundtrack somewhat representative of impressionistic classical music back in the 1800s, a music type that focuses on mood and atmosphere. And the mood that the Minecraft soundtrack produces is this feeling of bittersweet, like the music is happy but also kind of sad at the same time.
It's just calm, happy. It gives you all the emotions. It's like you don't know it's there, but you know it's there. That's the best way I can describe it.
And I don't want to sound too much like an 8th grade English teacher here, but this feeling of bittersweet seems to be a representation of the feeling that many of us have for the nostalgia of Minecraft. Bittersweet, we're both kind of happy that it happened while simultaneously sad that it's over, and the music seems to represent this perfectly. When we hear the music now, it seems to connect us back up with the innocence of our younger years, and that's kind of exactly what nostalgia is, the innocence of adolescence, or probably more accurately, the perceived simplicity of earlier life. Then let's take everything we've discussed so far, the calm, carefree story-free, competition-free gameplay, as well as the emotional, atmospheric music, and combine it with one final element: the age in which we all played Minecraft upon its early release. Now, in this video so far, I've tried to ignore anything to do with the scientific side of nostalgia, because I basically have as much science knowledge as a chimpanzee wearing a lab coat. However, there's one element I stumbled across which I really couldn't leave out. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my extremely uninformed opinion on a scientific phenomena that, yes, I only just kind of learnt myself, yeah. The lifespan retrieval curve. A graph that shows when the most memories are encoded in our brains based on our age. The graph shows that the first memories that we begin to become nostalgic for start at around age 10 and increase as time progresses. So ask yourself, what would you say is the target age for Minecraft?
That's a hard question. In my opinion, the target age for Minecraft is about 8 years old to 20 years old, in my opinion.
Or perhaps you might ask yourself, at what age did you start playing Minecraft?
I started playing Minecraft when I was about like 7 years old, and I feel like that's a good age to play it. But I started really getting involved in Minecraft after I got my first Xbox One. I started playing with randoms on Xbox. It was the most fun experiences I ever had in my life. I just remember building things that were so awful and just sucked. But I remember as a kid, I thought it was the coolest thing.
Something like 10 years old onwards possibly? Is it possible that Minecraft just so happened to be there for many of us at a time in our life when we were most susceptible to memories that would eventually turn into nostalgia? It makes sense, really. For every period in our life, we seem to be nostalgic for one thing or another. And in your early to late teens, what was there to be nostalgic for besides maybe school, an event which many of us didn't even feel nostalgia for? We could also link this theory up with the fact that our earlier memories seem to be the memories that we feel more nostalgic for. Now, this is a theory that once again has absolutely no scientific evidence behind it and would be completely different from person to person based on their own situation. But for many of us watching, you could argue that you seem to be much more nostalgic for the events that happened 8 years ago as opposed to the events that happened 6 months ago. Perhaps it's because as time progresses, you have more time to dwell on how good that initial event was. And after 8 years of occasionally thinking about it, you come to the conclusion that, hey, that was actually a pretty good point in my life. And whether or not this nostalgia was intentional, it's now been proven to be an extremely vital element of Minecraft's business model, causing players to constantly revisit the game over the years to get that sweet release of their childhood. And
It's not even that. It's just Minecraft is one of those games that is still enjoyable all these years later, in my opinion. Like, if I play Minecraft tomorrow, I will have a blast. I will beat the game, and I would play with my buddies, and we'll just laugh and have fun. Minecraft is just so replayable. I can play it when I'm 8 years old, all the way I'm up to 95 years old, and I will still enjoy it every time I play it. Because number one, it's nostalgic when I was a child, so I get that really good feeling. And number two, it's a little bit different. There's now new updates to the Nether, new updates to the cave, new updates to the Ender Dragon. There's so many new updates that slightly make the game harder or more like quests to do. So it makes it so it's a different experience every time. But the base game itself is just very still the same. You're still going to the Nether, still getting the Eyes of Ender, still going to the end and then killing the Ender Dragon. But you can go to a bastion and get gold, or you can go to the end city and get an elytra, or you can go and do different types of quests and make that game a lot more enjoyable, you know? And that's what makes Minecraft so much more amazing, in my opinion, because there's so many more new things to do. But as a child, it was a lot more simple and simplistic. And that's what made it so much more enjoyable when I was a kid. But now when I'm older, I think it's even better because there's so many more options for you to do and so many more quests.
It's well and truly spread out into different areas such as YouTube and Twitch, with YouTubers and streamers alike gaining massive views by revisiting the game after many years of not playing. And with one individual, the element of nostalgia quite literally re-exploded the game into the mainstream. PewDiePie posted the video Minecraft Part 1 in June 2019, with the initial idea being that PewDiePie would simply play the game for the nostalgia just to see what had changed.
I have not played Minecraft properly in ever. I think a lot of it has changed. I'm not sure. After all these years, I'm back in Minecraft.
Well, it seems as though the audience wanted to get a hit of this PewDiePie playing Minecraft nostalgia
Yeah,
as well.
that blew up, I remember, dude. His whole Minecraft series was so amazing.
And a whopping 45 million views. Then if you look at the Google Trends graph for Minecraft, this video posted by PewDiePie quite literally caused a resurge in the popularity of the game, and it became mainstream on YouTube once again. Since this period, mid-2019, about a year and a half ago, many other huge YouTubers such as MrBeast Gaming and Dream have utilized the popularity to gain massive views and grow their audience. And how can we be so sure that this growth would be possible if PewDiePie didn't revisit the game for the element of nostalgia in mid-2019?
What the frick? Now this is
To
old
put this baby to
Minecraft.
rest, let's answer the final question. Why is Minecraft so nostalgic? I think it's safe to say that it's basically the multiple elements of emotion and simplicity that produce a peaceful state of mind which slowly transition into nostalgic memories.
I think it's that also that you were a child at the time you were playing Minecraft. I remember being 8 years old and just the feeling is something I would never have again. It's just having no care in the world, having no responsibilities, just going, playing in your bed, playing on your Xbox for the first time, and just enjoying that. Now, if I play Minecraft, I have to think about other things. My mind is built different. It's not the same as when I was a child,
Over time. You could probably also argue that it has something to do with the age in which these memories form, with many of us experiencing the bulk of the Minecraft nostalgia from our early to late teens. And this conversation about age is an interesting one, because the resurgence of Minecraft in the mainstream has made it so the younger generation may very well have another wave of nostalgia for the Minecraft of today in 7 to 10 years. And who knows, maybe the generation after that will have yet another wave, continuing indefinitely until we're telling stories in...
I can't believe that in today's age, in 2025, that there's kids that are 8 years old playing Fortnite that are probably living the same thing I was living when I was 8 playing Minecraft.
In the year 2080 of the great game we all knew and loved in the 2010s, Minecraft Alpha.
What a great video though.